AECN 141, welcome to your first online lecture. Let me try this. Help out a little bit. So this is going to be my workspace, and where I will bring some lectures to you on this tiny whiteboard, but we'll make do. These lectures will be 20 to 25 minutes max length. I know that since we can't go back and forth, that makes a little goes a long way. So following these lectures, however, there will be opportunity to interact with me, but also with each other via Zoom. So the way that that will work is at 1:30. My kids are loud, so I'm going to shut this again. At 1:30, you'll log into Zoom. I'll talk to you, deliver a message, and then I'll put you into groups, probably groups of 3 to 5, and then I'll go in and check on those groups. But you can ask for help too within those groups. That's probably what I'll hope you do right away, is ask a question, then I'll know that group 13 is asking for help. I'll go into group 13 and answer your question. So for today, we're going to try to cover two things in our lecture. The first thing that we're going to try to cover is, how has this class changed? Now that we're online, what does that mean for your grade? What does that mean for course delivery? What does that mean for expectations in terms of what your homework assignments are? The second thing that we're going to cover is we're going to try to build a little bit of a model to see how this pandemic is affecting the economy. It's more of a macro topic, but given that this is AgEcon and we have a little piece of macro involved, it's a good way to get us back up to speed during this week of review, but also to give us some new content that is unfortunately very pertinent. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to cover, number one, is your grade. If you look in the Canvas gradebook, you'll see that you have a first half final grade. So what I did to calculate your final grade is I dropped your lowest exam score, then I added up your daily work, but I dropped 2. So I dropped 1 of your exams out of the first 2, and I dropped 2 of your Friday group work activities and combined them together. So that ended up weighting the exam about 60% and your homework about 40%. I didn't forget about any of the extra credit. That was included as well, and I assume that if I did something wrong, someone will let me know. However, the one part that isn't going to change is that's half your grade. So what we'll do is, going forward from here on out, your second half grade is just 1%. So you'll have 2 activities each week. You'll have some sort of practice type quiz, and then on Fridays you'll have a quiz. So sometime today through Thursday at 11:59, you'll have a homework assignment type quiz to complete for 10 points. And then Friday during class time, you'll have 1 hour to complete a quiz that has teeth. That one, if you miss it, you miss the points. However, the first 10-point assignment you can try over and over and over again until you get all 10 points. So that's good news. So if you get 10 out of 10 on the first half and 5 out of 10 on the second half, that's 75%. I know that's not anybody's goal, but I want the anxiety to be really low when it comes to this class. So let's, for example, look at someone who got a 60% on the first half of the class. The second half of the class, they said, I'm going to get with it. They do the first assignment, they get all 100% of those, and they don't do very good on the Friday quizzes, but they do good enough to get an 80. 60 plus 80 is 140%, divided by 2. This person's at 70%, which is a C overall. So I know that at least in my life, what's going on with this pandemic creates some anxiety. So I want to remove some of that anxiety when it comes to your grade. That doesn't mean that we're going to make things easy. We're going to focus on big things. We're going to come out of this class understanding markets. We're going to understand different types of markets. We're going to be able to understand how policies and decisions can affect both the ag economy and the overall economy. But maybe we'll skip some of the minutia. So big ideas, that's really what we're going to be going for. All right. If you found this, then you found the YouTube channel that will have these videos on Mondays and Wednesdays, and maybe on Fridays, but probably just Mondays and Wednesdays. I want there to be some incentive for you to watch these. So during each one of them, there'll be a scavenger hunt. And for now, the scavenger hunt is going to be pop culture items. So there'll be something that has to do with pop culture in this 20 minutes. And the first person to email me what that pop culture item is gets to decide what they want me to talk about or weave into Wednesday's lecture. So I'm willing to look like a moron at your behest, or at the very least to keep you interested. The second thing that we're going to do to incentivize you to engage and participate a little bit is that if there are more than 60% of people participate in Zoom, I will give you your choice of doing something to me humiliating. The first one would be allowing my 6-year-old to cut my hair. As you can see, it's really long, it looks terrible, it's driving me crazy. I'll let my 6-year-old, who is kind of a moron, to cut my hair, and I'll keep it for at least a few days. Or, I haven't shaved in a while either, I'll wear a mustache for 2 weeks if that's what you want. I'm going to send out a document that kind of recaps some of this stuff. If you can hit that 60% mark, we'll do a doodle poll, and the winner will decide. There's some slots, number 4 and number 5, for student choice. So if there's something else humiliating but lawful that you would like to see me do, I'd be willing to go that route as well. Okay. Enough of that. I expect some of these questions on Zoom. That'll be just fine. Don't worry about repeating questions. It's in the syllabus. It's on the course webpage. I expect to have these questions over and over again. It's no problem. But let's learn something today. So we left off last time talking about monopoly and talking about the stock market. We knew that this pandemic thing, something was going on because all the Big Ten schools had canceled class except for us. But we didn't quite know how big of an effect it was going to have on the economy when we found out the sucker is contagious, and the only way to keep it from getting really, really bad is for people to stay in. So we had developed a model, just a little bit, that looked pretty much like any model or any market that we had had up until this point. One exception to that, though, was this demand curve is not the demand curve of just one person, or it's not the demand curve for just one market. It's demand for all goods by all people. So I think of this model as being the market. It's like the world's biggest shopping mall. The shopping mall sells absolutely everything there is for sale, and anybody that wants to buy something has to go to this shopping mall. So the price isn't the price of any one specific thing, it's the price of all things. And that's an index. It's really just, it's a ranking is kind of how an index works. So you can think about the mall analogy works pretty well. If you think about doing your holiday shopping, if I was going to go Christmas shopping for my family and had to go to the Cherry Creek Mall in Denver, I wouldn't buy very much stuff because it's very, very expensive there. But if I went to the Pine Lake Mall, whatever mall we have in Lincoln, I would buy some stuff. And if I went to Baumgart's, which I know isn't a mall, but you can buy everything you absolutely could possibly ever want at Baumgart's, I'd buy Christmas gifts for everybody in my family because they have reasonably priced things. So here we have this aggregate demand curve that's showing the quantity demanded is less when the price is high, so we'll just call that pH, than when the price is low. Okay? Now, it's not exactly for the same reasons as demand, but I'll let your macro teacher work that out. The supply curve is the same thing. It's the supply of all things by all people. And in the short run, so SRAS stands for short run aggregate supply, the short run aggregate supply curve has a positive relationship with price as well. And if you remember, what makes the short run is something is fixed. And that's no exception here. And what's fixed in the short run are wages. Wages are sticky. And what that means is that they don't move as freely as other prices. And just kind of think about why that might be. Can you go ask your boss for a raise every single day? Well, you can. He or she will probably say no and eventually get really annoyed with you. Likewise, can your boss lower your wage on a daily basis? You might think they have the ability to do that, but in most situations, there are reasons why wages stay the same. We call them sticky. They don't move. So if the price of any one good is going up, but wages and input for most everything is staying the same, firms are able to supply more and make more money in the short run until wages go up as well. So we have this positive relationship in the short run, and the intersection of the two determines real GDP, something we've covered before, the amount of stuff that we produce in the country, usually in a given time period. It's final goods and services, we don't have to worry about the specific definition at this point, but it's a good indicator of our economic performance because the more stuff we make, the more income we have. So when real GDP is growing, the economy is doing well, and life is good. However, when aggregate demand falls like this, because of something like a pandemic, meaning, hey, no matter what the price level, people aren't buying as much. Something bad, we look at this and policymakers and politicians and people all around say, what are we going to do? No one's spending any money. Our pets' heads are falling off. This is really, really bad. And what makes it so bad, we have less stuff. And you might say, well, gee, Tim, we have plenty of stuff. And you're right, we do have plenty of stuff. But if we're not making more stuff, that means people don't have jobs. And the amount of jobs can be determined by this gap. So this might be $18 trillion and this might be $17 trillion. That means there's $1 trillion of output that isn't happening that has a direct correlation with the people that aren't producing that output any longer. And if they're not producing that output, they're not getting paid, and they're not spending money in places they usually spend money, and those businesses that wouldn't be affected by the pandemic are affected themselves, and this can get even worse. So this is where the government steps in and says, we're going to help out, we're going to do something to try to boost this demand back up, to try to get it to close this gap. And the way that we can increase aggregate demand is by giving people some money. And that's what this stimulus package is about. Now it's politicized, there's all sorts of hairy stuff that goes along with it. Who gets the money? How much money should they have? When are they going to get the money? Who's going to pay for it? How should the money be delivered to people? But in the end, it's just money for everybody, or nearly everybody. Okay, this is one time where I'm super thankful I have 4 kids because each one of them is worth a $500 bill in this case. Right? So the hope is that aggregate demand is going to increase. So what I want you to do in your Zoom rooms is talk about how things are going. Talk to your classmates. It's going to be randomized. You might get to meet some people, see how they're doing. But I want you to talk about this policy and think of if it'll actually work. Think about what the pitfalls could be or reasons why giving people, in my case, it'll be $4,400. If you give me $4,400, how might that not help the economy? What could happen that this plan could not work out? I'll give you a hint. I think it will work. I think that it will boost aggregate demand. But I think that not everyone is probably like me. So start thinking about if you were a taxpayer in 18 or 19, if you filed your taxes, that's basically if you're eligible or not, how would you spend your money? What would you do with it? How would you view what is either a check from the government, you could view it that way, or you could view it as a tax rebate, giving you some of your tax dollars back. So that's it. So talk to each other about how things are going in class and talk about this stimulus package and how you think it's going to work. So that's for individuals. Remember that corporations and small businesses, that's part of the package as well. Okay, I am 30 seconds shy of 15 minutes. You guys can do that. Hopefully you get this message before Zoom. If you don't, it's not a problem. Please email me. We can Zoom, we can talk over the phone, whatever is going to work best for you guys. I want this to be a good second half of this semester, or at least as best as we can make it. All right, see you later.